How's it going, my friend? It is Danny here from projectmanaverse.com, technical project management for beginners. So today I'm going to talk about the benefits of JIRA. I'm going to explain briefly what JIRA is. I'll tell you why you should care about understanding JIRA. Then I'll jump into the actual benefits. So let's get stuck into the video. So first of all, what is JIRA? Well, JIRA is a tool available for project managers, and it complements the whole agile methodology. And agile is very different from classical project management. It's where you work more, I suppose, in an agile way, and you tend to, rather than planning the big picture and planning the next 12 months in great detail, you work in sprints, and it's typically a sprint is every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks you think about, right, what work are we going to get done this week? And you create these tickets, they call them, and you assign the tickets to your team members, and then you just concentrate on those two weeks, that sprint. And then when the next 2 weeks comes round, you bring in more work, call it your backlog. That's where the tickets sit, on your backlog. And in your sprint, you move them on to the next part of the agile board. But anyway, JIRA, going back to the original point, JIRA is to complement the agile methodology when you're working in sprints and working in a bit more of a flexible, agile way. And it's software, and it's there to, I suppose, capture the work you're doing in a visual representation of tickets on a board. So if you imagine you're looking at your computer screen, you've got vertical columns going across. The most basic way to describe it, the most basic description, on your left is your backlog, stuff that has to be done, work that you know has to be done in the future. In the middle, you've got in progress work. And then on the right hand side, you've got work that has been done and completed. You can have more columns than that. It does break down further, but that's a very simplistic description of what Agile looks like in the Agile tool. Now, in these columns, you've got these tickets, I suppose you could think of it like post-it notes, which represent the work. So each piece of work has a ticket, and you assign someone to that ticket, and then you can assign how big a piece of that work is, and you can capture notes on it, have an audit trail, attach things to it, and that's pretty much how it works. And then on top of that, there's a whole raft of reporting views and suites and extra functionality and features that you can use to help you manage the work. So that's the high level description of what JIRA is. Now, why should you care about JIRA in your role as a project manager? Because I've just said it's not strictly for classical project management. It's more about the new agile way of doing things. Well, you should care about it because agile is getting very, very popular and trendy these days, especially in big organizations. And unfortunately, that's the thing about working in these big organizations. Sometimes they jump on the trendy, popular thing, even though it might not be quite right for the best way of delivering. But in any case, it's getting very, very popular. So whether you like it or not, you're probably going to have to use it at some point. Sometimes you still can do classical project management and you're still expected to, but use it as a supplementary tool, which can be done. But I'm just giving you a heads up. You'll probably have to use it whether you like it or not. So it's worth understanding it and understanding the benefits so you can use it to your advantage rather than it having to be a tick box exercise. So I've talked about what it is, and I've told you why you should care about it. So let's now jump into the benefits of using Agile, because there are some, benefits of using JIRA for Agile, because there are some benefits. Now, before I actually talk about the benefits, I will give my personal view on JIRA and Agile, and that is I don't like using it for big IT projects, classical IT projects, where you've got a year or two of work, because you need to, if you want a successful delivery, you've really got to nail everything down at the start of the project. You've got to nail down your scope, break it down into the detail, and plan it very carefully, plan out all your resources. If you're doing things using JIRA and Agile, it's more on the fly, and that governance isn't there, and there's no clear set direction, and I'm just personally not a big fan of it. I might do another video to explain that in a bit more detail and really put across my arguments in a bit more of a compendious and concise manner, but I don't personally like it. But anyway, as I say, there are some benefits. So rather than complaining, if you have to use it, try and get the most out of it. So let's jump into those benefits. Number one, it does actually give you a very nice representation of work happening in the next couple of weeks. So you can just open it up, look at it with your team, and you've got a nice visual representation of work that's happening at that time. As I always say this, your role as a project manager, one of your roles is to bring order from chaos and try and bring clarity from a bunch of fuzz and noise and mess. And this is actually a good way of doing it. And you can certainly have a look at your overall project plan and just look at the next 2 weeks and then just take the work from that and put it into these tickets. So you can actually, in your morning stand up or your daily core or whatever core you use, you can actually bring up this board and go through each ticket and pick on the team members and get them to explain what's happening on their ticket. Or if you want to know what's going on with it yourself as a project manager, rather than calling them up and distracting them from their work, if you get them to get into the habit of updating the ticket with the latest events and what has happened with that work, and get them to get disciplined doing that every few days, you can just click into the ticket yourself and get the latest news and see what attachments have been uploaded and all that good stuff. So it is a very good visual representation. It does give you that sense of control and knowing what's going on, and should give your team confidence that you're in control as well. So that is benefit number one. Benefit number two of JIRA is, which one should I talk about next? So it is good for things like audit trails and keeping a record of your work. When you work for a big organization, especially something like in the finance industry where things are heavily audited because they really need to protect customers, then you're usually audited. Your projects are audited by an external third party to make it impartial and all that stuff. And part of those audits, they like to look back at all your work and all your deliverables, your documentation, to make sure it all matches up to the requirements. You've got traceability about what you're doing, and you've got risk approval, and you're following all the company policies and the laws out there about banking and the financial regulations. So you need to be pretty on it with your evidence and your document keeping. And this is a good way of doing that, because once you've got tasks, as I say, you can include the history of all the conversations that have been had on that ticket, that piece of work, the decisions that had been made. You can just put a few comments on there, and you've got the date and the timestamp of who did it, and you can upload documents to that as well. And the tickets are actually hard to get rid of and delete, so you've always got them there somewhere, even if you just archive them. So it's actually a good way for housekeeping and keeping evidence. And if you ever do get audited, you can point them to the tickets, and they can have a look for themselves exactly what took place to get that piece of work done. So that's benefit number two. Benefit number three of using JIRA is, what is benefit number three? See, I'm struggling because I don't really like JIRA, but there are some more benefits. What else is good about JIRA? Okay, one good benefit is it does actually make it easier for you to understand what your team is actually doing. So one of the features of JIRA is when you look at your board, your JIRA board, and you've got all your tickets there, you can add filters on there. So you can actually click on a team member's name and it will only show their tickets. So you can see exactly what they're working on, and you can see in a glance how big their workload is, and you can actually assign weight and points to a ticket to explain how much work that ticket is worth. So you can get a good sense of what your team is doing. You should have a good sense anyway, but it just helps that process. So you can click through each team member, see what they're doing, see how much work they've got, and you can quickly make a call. Right, that person hasn't got much work on at the moment. It's clearly they've only got one ticket or two tickets. Let's give them a bit more work. Let's look at the backlog and assign some more work to them. So that is another benefit of JIRA. It does help with that as well. Okay, so that's pretty much the key benefits. I'm just racking my brain. There are any other really key benefits I get out of JIRA when I use it. So I've talked about the visual representation of work. I've talked about the audit trail. I've talked about assigning things to the team. I think there's one more benefit, but it's just escaping me. So maybe I'll do that in a future video. But anyway, let me recap for now and then we'll call it a day. So first of all, what is JIRA? As I say, it's a tool for project managers and other people as well to help you manage work. And it's more aligned to the agile methodology and strategy of doing work. I don't think it really works for classical big IT projects, because they take a lot of planning and you need to get things locked down up front, in my opinion, but we have to use it. As I say, it's becoming very popular in organizations, and whether you like it or not, you will probably have to use it. I will say, I think the original purpose of using Agile was really for more startup companies, when you're building like an application, like, and you want to get it out to market as quickly as possible and get feedback on it, rather than planning out the whole thing. Let's just build this app, for example, let's say it's a mobile app, and then put it out there, get some feedback from our customers, and then we'll iterate it, we'll make it better each time, rather than just planning and trying to get everything right. You want to kind of iterate and change things as you go along, as you're getting that feedback. I think that's a good spirit of the actual tool. But with these big IT projects where it's very clear what you need to do from the start, you're looking to, like, for example, upgrade this IT system, you don't have that chance to keep getting feedback. You know what you need to do from the start, and you've got to get it right. So there's my bit more of my justification, slightly going off topic. But anyway, so that's why you should know about it. It's because organizations are starting to use it. It's becoming very trendy, and whether you like it or not, it's coming your way. The 3 benefits that I find personally in terms of using JIRA: number 1, it gives you that good visual representation of the work. You can see it clearly on there, gives you a sense of being in control, and it's quite a good tool for thinking about the next couple of weeks in your project plan. So you can use both. You can use your project plan, and then rather than having like a 2-week look ahead document, which I've spoken about before, you can just use a JIRA board to pick out the key pieces of work. So that's benefit number 1. Benefit number 2, it is actually very good for housekeeping and keeping audit trails, because you can have a record of what's happened through the comment section of the ticket as you go along, and you can attach documents to it, attach sign-off, so it's good in that sense. And number 3, it's just good for keeping track of what's going on in your team and how much work people are doing, what they've got on their plate, because you might have quite a big team, sometimes 15 people that are working for you full time. So keeping track of all that work, this just makes it easier. You can click on their name, think, oh, right, yep, that person's got a lot on his plate, that person hasn't, let's move some work over, make it a bit fairer. Okay, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and until the next time, please take care.